I never really believed that my life would turn into a real-life soap opera. You know, the kind where the husband finds out his wife is cheating and things spiral out of control. I always thought that was something that happened to other people, as I went about my seemingly perfect life with Kelly. We had been married for 5 years, and on the surface, everything looked great. We had a nice house in the suburbs, a steady job in marketing for me, and Kelly was a rising star in her own right, working as an event planner. But there were signs, subtle hints that something was off long before the truth slapped me in the face. It started with the late nights at work. She always had meetings or events to attend. I tried to be supportive, even encouraging, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Kelly was also less affectionate, and when we did have sex, it felt like she was going through the motions. Those moments were fewer and farther between. I tried to talk to her about it, but she always brushed me off with a wave of her hand, claiming she was exhausted from work. One night I decided to take a peek at her phone while she was in the shower. I know, it's an invasion of privacy, but I couldn't help it. I was desperate for answers. As I scrolled through her messages, I came across a string of texts that made my heart drop. There it was, a conversation with someone named Ryan. They exchanged flirty emojis, inside jokes, and steamy messages that left nothing to the imagination. My stomach turned as I read how she called him baby and talked about how excited she was to see him. I felt like I was in a nightmare. My mind raced with the possibilities. Who was this Ryan? How long had this been going on? I should have been angry, but I was in shock. I sat there in silence, feeling the weight of betrayal crush me. The shower shut off and I quickly put the phone back where it belonged, my heart pounding in my chest. When Kelly emerged, she was wrapped in a towel, blissfully unaware of the devastation brewing inside me. I decided to confront her when the moment felt right, but as we sat down for dinner, the words stuck in my throat. How could I lay this all out without losing my mind? The tension mounted between us and I could barely focus on anything else. That night, we went to bed, and I lay there wide awake while she snored softly next to me. I felt sick, like I was trapped in a cage. I wanted to scream, but I didn't want to wake her up. The betrayal felt like a festering wound, growing more painful by the minute. Finally, the next morning, I couldn't hold it in any longer. As Kelly sipped her coffee, I took a deep breath and decided to lay it all out. "Kelly, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaky. She looked at me, brow furrowed, and I pressed on. "I saw your messages with Ryan." Her face went pale, and for a moment I thought she might confess. Instead, she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, come on, it's nothing, just a friend from work. You know how I get, always joking around." I felt my blood boil, the anger bubbling to the surface. Joking around, calling him baby and planning to meet up isn't just joking around. She threw her hands up defensively. "You're being ridiculous. You're so insecure, it's embarrassing." Her words hit harder than any physical blow. I had trusted her, loved her, and here she was, flipping it all back on me. I felt like a fool, and the pain of betrayal mixed with the anger coursing through my veins. As I stared at her, trying to process her lies, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I realized this wasn't just about her betrayal, it was about me reclaiming my life. I had two choices. I could either wallow in sadness or take control of the situation. But what did that mean? I had no clue at that moment. I just knew I couldn't let this go unanswered. The silence from her side felt like a promise of more betrayal, and I was done. In that moment, a plan began to form in my mind, a dark idea that I never thought I would consider. She thought cheating was fun until I made her lover disappear. No police, no trace, no closure, just silence. After that confrontation, I was consumed with a mix of anger and determination. I knew I couldn't let Kelly's betrayal slide, and the more I thought about it, the more I felt that I needed to take action, something decisive. I felt an almost primal urge to restore my dignity, to prove that I wasn't a man to be walked over. I started to think about Ryan, the guy who had wormed his way into my wife's affections. Who did he think he was? I spent the next few days trying to gather information. I needed to know about Ryan, everything. The more I learned, the more I became convinced that he was the perfect target for my revenge. I found out he worked at a local gym, a few blocks from our house. His social media profiles were public, which only made things easier. I combed through his posts and pictures, watching him flex his muscles and smile with a confidence that made my skin crawl. He looked like a cocky jerk, and every ounce of self-assurance he had seemed to come at my expense. I began to put together a plan, a way to confront him without attracting unwanted attention. I knew I couldn't just storm into the gym, guns blazing. The last thing I wanted was to make a scene, especially since I had no intention of involving the police. I'd read enough crime novels to know that you could make someone disappear without leaving a trace with enough planning. One evening, I decided to scope out the gym. I casually jogged past it during my run, pretending to be interested in the fitness center. I didn't go inside, but I could see him through the glass doors, leading a group of people in a workout class. The way he carried himself, the way he interacted with the women in the class made my blood boil. There he was, flirting and laughing, completely unaware of the storm brewing outside. The next step was to find out more about his routine. I discovered that he trained late in the evenings, typically closing up the gym around 10 p.m. After a few days of watching and waiting, I had the details I needed. I spent one more night plotting, determining how I would handle the situation. My heart raced with a mix of fear and excitement as I jotted down some notes. It was surreal. Here I was, a husband who had once believed in love and trust, now plotting revenge like some character out of a dark thriller. The thought of confronting Ryan was both exhilarating and terrifying, but I knew I had to go through with it. This wasn't just about him. It was about making a statement. The day came when I decided to act. I waited until the gym was about to close, around 9:30 p.m. I parked my car a short distance away and took a deep breath as I approached the entrance. It was dark and the streetlights cast long shadows on the pavement. My heart pounded in my chest and I felt a rush of adrenaline. As I entered the gym, I casually walked to the back where the training rooms were. I could hear the sounds of weights clanking and the muffled chatter of the few remaining patrons. I spotted Ryan talking to one of his female clients, leaning in a little too close, laughing a little too hard. My fists clenched involuntarily as I watched, the anger bubbling to the surface. I approached him, my heart racing, and cleared my throat. "Ryan," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He turned to face me, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone dripping with casual arrogance. I took a step closer, feeling the tension crackling in the air. "Yeah, I think you can. We need to talk about Kelly." His expression shifted, confusion giving way to a flicker of recognition. "Kelly, I don't know what you're talking about, man." I could sense his bravado faltering, and I felt the satisfaction of having the upper hand. "Cut the crap, Ryan. I know about you too. The texts, the plans, everything. You think it's just a game." His face twisted into a smug grin, a look of false confidence masking his anxiety. "You don't know anything. This is between me and Kelly. You should just back off." I couldn't believe the audacity of this guy. I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. "You think you're safe, don't you? But trust me, you're playing with fire, and I'm not the type to let this slide." In that moment, I felt like I was on the edge of something dark and dangerous, teetering between sanity and revenge. Ryan's bravado began to crack, and I could see the realization dawning on him that he was in over his head. "Listen," he started, but I cut him off. "No, you listen. This ends now. You're going to stop seeing Kelly and you're going to leave her alone. If you don't, you'll regret it." A flash of fear crossed his face. I had to make this convincing. This wasn't just about threats, it was about establishing dominance. I stood there, waiting for a response, and for a brief moment I could see him weighing his options. Okay, he finally said, raising his hands defensively. "I'll back off. Just chill out, man." I nodded slowly, a sense of satisfaction washing over me. I had made my point and I felt a rush of power, but this was just the beginning. I needed to plan my next move carefully. This wasn't just about scaring Ryan. I wanted to make sure he never forgot who he was messing with. As I left the gym, my heart still racing, I felt a strange mixture of relief and exhilaration. I had taken control of the situation, but I knew it was far from over. There was still Kelly to deal with, and I had to figure out how to confront her again. This time, it wouldn't just be about words. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices. I had ignited a fire within me that I never knew existed, and I was ready to turn up the heat. After confronting Ryan, I felt a surge of adrenaline. I had crossed a line I never thought I would, and it felt strangely empowering. But my victory was bittersweet. I still had to deal with Kelly. The real confrontation was yet to come, and I needed to approach it carefully. I couldn't let her see how shaken I was. The next day, I returned to my routine, putting on a mask of normalcy. I went to work, answered emails, and pretended that everything was fine. But inside, I was a storm of emotions, as my mind replayed the confrontation over and over. I kept telling myself that I had done the right thing, but deep down, I knew I was spiraling into something darker. When Kelly came home that evening, I could sense the tension in the air. She walked in, and I could tell she was in a good mood, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. She greeted me with a smile, and for a moment I almost forgot everything that had happened. But then the reality of her betrayal crashed back down on me, and my heart hardened. "Hey, how was your day?" she asked, her tone light and casual. "Fine," I replied curtly, trying to keep my cool. "Yours?" "Oh, the usual, busy with event planning," she said, taking off her shoes and walking into the kitchen. She began to rummage through the fridge, completely unaware of the chaos brewing inside me. This was the moment I had been waiting for, but I felt frozen, as if my feet were stuck in concrete. I had to find the right words to make her understand the gravity of her actions. I took a deep breath and decided to confront her about Ryan, but I needed to catch her off guard. "Did you talk to Ryan today?" I asked, my voice steady but low. She turned around, her expression shifting from surprise to confusion. "Ryan? No, why would I? I told you it was just harmless flirting." "Harmless flirting," I echoed, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. "You think it's harmless when you're texting him baby and planning to meet up?" Her face paled, and for a moment I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, attempting to feign innocence. "I saw the messages, Kelly. Don't lie to me. You think I'm just going to sit back and let you lie to my face?" She took a step back, and I could see her scrambling for an excuse. "Listen, I can explain," I cut her off, feeling an overwhelming tide of rage. "Explain what? That you've been cheating on me, that this has been going on for months." She opened her mouth to respond, but the words failed her. Instead, her eyes darted around as if searching for a way out. "It's not what you think. I didn't mean to hurt you, I swear. Didn't mean to hurt me." I spat, the betrayal burning in my chest. "You didn't just hurt me, you shattered my trust. You think I'm going to sit here and let you brush this off?" She seemed to shrink in front of me, her bravado evaporating. "I was lonely, okay? You were so focused on work, and I don't know, I felt neglected." Her words struck a nerve. I had been busy, yes, but I had never thought it would push her into another man's arms. "That's your excuse. You could have talked to me, Kelly. You could have come to me instead of jumping into bed with someone else." Tears filled her eyes, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her, but the anger was too fresh, too powerful. "I thought we were a team," I said, my voice breaking. "You were supposed to be my partner. Instead, you went behind my back." "I'm so sorry," she sobbed, collapsing onto the sofa. "I messed up. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Her tears didn't evoke the sympathy I hoped they would. Instead, they only fueled my anger. I had once loved the woman who sat before me, but now the image of her flooded with guilt felt foreign. "You know what? I'm done with the excuses. You need to choose. It's either me or him." She looked up, disbelief etched on her face. "What? You want me to just cut him out of my life just like that?" "Yes, because that's what loyalty means. You have to make a choice, and I deserve to know where I stand." Her silence was deafening. I could see the gears turning in her mind, and in that moment I realized I wasn't just confronting her about Ryan. I was forcing her to confront her own choices. "Fine," she said eventually, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll tell him it's over, I promise." I felt a strange mix of victory and despair. Did I really want her to choose me? Did I want to salvage a marriage built on such a rotten foundation? Or did I want to watch her suffer for what she'd done? As I pondered those questions, I knew I had to keep my guard up. Looking back, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking a tightrope. Would she keep her promise, or was this just another lie? Deep down, I knew I had to prepare for what came next. I wasn't going to let her off the hook easily. I wanted her to face the repercussions of her actions. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about regaining control of my life. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal just as I had felt it. When the dust settled, I would make sure she understood exactly what she had lost. After that confrontation, I thought I would feel a sense of relief. Instead, I felt like I was standing on the brink of a precipice, staring into the dark abyss of uncertainty. Kelly had agreed to cut ties with Ryan, but I had a nagging feeling that it wouldn't be that simple. Betrayal had a way of festering, and I knew I had to keep a close watch on her. For the next few days, I played the role of the supportive husband, but it felt like I was wearing a mask. I would occasionally catch her staring at her phone, and my heart would race with paranoia, my mind conjuring images of her texting Ryan behind my back. The anxiety gnawed at me, and I felt like a prisoner in my own home. I needed to know for sure whether she was following through on her promise, so I devised a plan. I would put her to the test, but it had to be subtle. I couldn't let her catch on, or she might double down on the lies. I waited for a weekend when she had a planned girls' night with her friends. It was the perfect opportunity for me to see how serious she was about cutting Ryan out of her life. On that night, she dressed up in a tight red dress, her hair cascading down her shoulders in soft waves. She looked beautiful, but I couldn't shake the anger that simmered beneath the surface. As she hurried out the door, I reminded myself that I had to stick to my plan. Once she was gone, I decided to track her movements. I had her location shared on our phones, a feature we had used for convenience, but now it felt like my lifeline. I opened the app and saw that she was at a bar downtown, where she had said the night would take place. I felt a mix of dread and determination. I waited an hour before I decided to head over. I wanted to see for myself if there was any sign of Ryan or if Kelly was truly trying to distance herself from him. When I arrived at the bar, I stood outside for a moment, gathering my thoughts. I took a deep breath and walked in, scanning the room. The buzzing atmosphere was filled with laughter and chatter, but my heart raced as I focused on finding her. There in the corner, I spotted her with a group of friends. Relief washed over me at first, but it quickly faded as I noticed her laugh, so carefree and genuine it cut me deeply. My gut twisted as I watched her sip her drink, oblivious to my presence. I decided to hang back and observe. As I leaned against the wall, the minutes stretched into eternity. I kept my eyes locked on her, and that's when I saw him. Ryan walked in, casually flipping his hair back as he scanned the room. I felt my stomach drop. In that moment, I lost all rational thought. He approached our table, and I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I felt the weight of betrayal crash down on me again. She was supposed to have cut him out. Anger surged through my veins, and without thinking, I pushed my way through the crowd, my vision narrowing on them. As I got closer, I could see that he leaned in, whispering something in her ear. Kelly laughed, and it felt like a dagger to my heart. I couldn't let this slide anymore. I had to confront them both right then and there. I burst through the group of friends and stood in front of them, my fists clenched. What the hell is going on here? I demanded, my voice loud enough to draw attention. Kelly's eyes widened in shock, and Ryan's smug expression faltered. "What are you doing here?" Kelly asked, her voice tinged with panic. "I'm here because you obviously can't keep your word, Kelly. I thought you were done with him." My heart raced as I pointed at Ryan, who was now standing with an air of disbelief. "Dude, back off," Ryan said, an arrogant smirk creeping back onto his face. "This is none of your business." I stepped closer, feeling the urge to lash out. "It's absolutely my business when you're trying to crawl back into my marriage," I barked. Kelly looked at me, her expression shifting from shock to anger. "You have no right to come here and make a scene. I told you I'd handle it." "Handle it?" I laughed bitterly. "So this is handling it. You're still flirting with him, and he's still in the picture. Ryan is just a friend." She shot back, but her words fell flat. "Is that why you're laughing with him? Because friends laugh like that?" I spat, my emotions boiling over. "You think I'm going to stand by while you parade around with him?" The bar had grown quiet, and I could feel the eyes of the patrons glued to us. I felt exposed and vulnerable, but I wasn't backing down. "Fine, you want to know the truth," Kelly said, her voice rising. "I was trying to let him down easy, okay? I didn't want to hurt him, but I see now that I should have been more upfront about it." "More upfront?" I echoed incredulously. You're still playing both sides. How do I know you're not lying to me again? Ryan stepped forward, trying to interject. This is between you two, man. Just chill out. You don't need to make a scene. I turned on him, my fury boiling over. You think this doesn't involve you? You're the one who took my wife and you need to back off. Back off. She's the one who came to me. He shot back, clearly enjoying the confrontation. You think this is funny? I asked, my voice low and dangerous. You think you can just take what's mine without consequences? The tension was palpable, and at that moment I felt the whole world close in around me. Kelly stood between us, her face pale as she realized the severity of the situation. "Stop it, both of you," she shouted, her voice breaking. "I can't believe you're doing this here," but I was beyond caring about where we were or how I looked. "You need to choose, Kelly. This ends tonight." I yelled, my heart racing as I faced both of them, ready for whatever came next. Kelly's eyes darted back and forth between Ryan and me, and I could see the panic setting in. In that moment, I realized just how far I was willing to go to reclaim my life and my dignity. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage. I was fighting for my sense of self-worth, and I wasn't going to let her or him walk all over me any longer. As I stood there, fists clenched and heart pounding, I knew the night would change everything. Whether it would be for better or worse was yet to be seen. But I was ready for the fallout. I was done being the victim in this twisted game. This was my moment to take control, and nothing would stand in my way. As the tension in the bar thickened, I felt like I was in a pressure cooker, ready to explode. Kelly stood there, caught between Ryan and me, her expression a mix of fear and confusion. I could see the realization dawning on her that this was no longer just a battle for my heart. It was a storm that would sweep through everything she had built. "Enough!" Kelly shouted, raising her hands as if to separate us. "I can't deal with this right now, not here." "Then where, Kelly?" I shot back, my voice edged with desperation. "You need to face the truth. You've been hiding behind excuses for too long." Ryan stepped closer, his arms crossed, trying to maintain his cocky demeanor. "Dude, if you're so insecure about your marriage, maybe you should take a step back and let her breathe." "Breathe?" I laughed bitterly, my heart racing. "You think this is about insecurity? No, this is about respect, something you clearly don't understand." The eyes of the bar patrons were boring into us, and I could feel the whispers around the room. I was a spectacle, a man whose heart was on display for all to see. But I didn't care anymore. I was done hiding my pain. "Kelly, I need you to make a choice," I said, my voice lowering, trying to cut through the chaos. "This is your last chance to end this with him. Do you want me or do you want him?" She glanced at Ryan, then back at me, her lips quivering. I could see her wrestling with the decision, trying to weigh her feelings against the reality of what she had done. I don't know," she finally admitted, her voice cracking. "I thought I could figure it out, but now you're just making it worse." I yelled, feeling the frustration boil over. "This isn't just fun and games, Kelly. You're playing with people's lives." For the first time, she looked vulnerable, truly vulnerable. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said softly, tears welling in her eyes. "I got lost in the moment. I thought I could manage things without hurting anyone." "You thought?" I echoed, my heart aching at her anguish, but anger still burned brightly within me. "You've had your fun, Kelly. Now it's time to face the consequences of your actions. You need to choose right now." Ryan scoffed, trying to assert himself again. "Dude, you can't force her into a decision like this. You're being dramatic." "Dramatic?" I was incredulous. "You're the one who decided to jump in with both feet. You've disrupted my life, and now you want to act like it's no big deal." The room felt like it was closing in. Kelly looked between us, and for a moment I thought she might finally come to her senses, but instead she stepped back, shaking her head. "I can't do this here. I need time to think." "No, you need to decide," I yelled, and I could see the surprise and fear in her eyes. It was eating away at me, the way she was dodging responsibility. "I can't just choose like that," she shot back, her voice rising in panic. "You're both pressuring me." "Then let me make it easy for you," I said, my voice trembling with intensity. "I want you to tell Ryan it's over right now. If you can't do that, then I'm done. I'm walking away from this mess." At that, Kelly seemed to freeze. The weight of my ultimatum hung in the air, and for a moment silence enveloped us. I could feel all eyes in the bar on us, waiting for her response. "Just give me a moment," she finally pleaded, looking desperate. "Why should I? I challenged, my voice firm. You've had plenty of moments to think this through. Ryan stepped forward again, trying to regain control of the situation. Look, man, you really need to chill. This isn't going to solve anything. Don't you dare tell me to chill. I shot back, my heart racing. You invaded my life and I have every right to fight back. Kelly looked torn, her eyes darting back and forth between us. I need to handle this my way, she said, her voice breaking. No, I said firmly, making my stance clear. Your way has led to betrayal. Now it's time for you to face the consequences of your choices. The crowd had grown restless and I could feel the pressure mounting. I could see the judgment in their eyes. I was the man who had been wronged, yet I felt so lost. I'll give you one last chance, Kelly, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. You either tell him to leave you alone or I walk away from this entire marriage. I won't be a pawn in your game any longer. Tears streamed down her face and I could see her struggling to process the weight of my words. I can't believe you're making me choose like this, she whispered, her voice tremulous. Believe it, I said, my heart aching but unwavering. This is your reality now. If you want me, you have to fight for it. You've made your bed, now lie in it. The silence that followed felt heavy, like a lead weight pressing down on all of us. I could see the turmoil within her, and I knew this moment would determine the course of our lives together. Finally, she took a shuddering breath and looked Ryan in the eye. I need to end this, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Ryan's expression shifted from arrogance to disbelief. What? You're serious? Yes, she replied, her voice gaining strength. I want to be with my husband. I can't keep doing this. The moment felt surreal, like I was watching it unfold from a distance. I saw the color drain from Ryan's face as the reality of her decision hit him. You don't mean that, he said, his tone sharp. You're just saying that because he's here. No, I mean it, she insisted, her voice steady. I made a mistake and I need to fix this. As she turned back to me, I saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. But it was overshadowed by the enormity of what had just transpired. I felt a mix of relief and dread wash over me. Ryan's expression morphed into anger. You can't just throw away what we had, Kelly. You'll regret this. Regret, she echoed, her brow furrowing. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm taking control of my life. I watched as Ryan scoffed and stepped back, his bravado crumbling. Suit yourself, he muttered before turning to leave. As he walked away, the tension in the bar lifted slightly, but I could see that things had changed permanently. Kelly had made her choice, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long road ahead. Are you sure about this? I asked, my voice softening as I looked into her eyes, searching for sincerity. I am, she said, tears still glistening. I'm sorry for everything and I want to make it right. I will do whatever it takes. I wanted to believe her, but the fear of being hurt again loomed large. I could feel the weight of betrayal still hanging over us, and I knew that this wasn't a simple fix. As we left the bar, I couldn't shake the feeling that the battle wasn't over. It had only just begun. We both had a long way to go to rebuild what had been broken, and I was left wondering if love would be enough to mend the wounds. As we stepped out of the bar, the night air hit us like a gust of wind, sharp and invigorating. I watched Kelly closely, searching her eyes for any signs of insincerity. There was still a glimmer of vulnerability, but it was accompanied by a spark of resolve I hadn't seen before. I had forced her hand, and now it was time to see if she truly meant her words. Are you okay? I asked, my voice softening as I looked at her. The chaos inside the bar was behind us now, but the emotional fallout was still very much present. I will be, she replied, her voice steady but laced with emotion. I want to make it work, I really do. I messed up and I need to earn your trust back. Trust, that word hung heavily in the air between us. It was a word that had been shattered, splintered into a million pieces by her betrayal. I wanted to believe that she could repair it, but the reality was that it would take time, effort, and consistency on her part. I can't promise that it will be easy, I said, my heart heavy with the weight of uncertainty. You've put us in a really difficult position, and I need to know that you're fully committed to this. I am, she insisted, her eyes pleading. I didn't realize how much I had jeopardized until tonight. I don't want to lose you, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove it. As we walked back to our car, I felt a mixture of hope and trepidation. It was a moment of clarity for both of us, a moment where we could choose to either rebuild or walk away. I had been prepared to end things that evening, but now I felt the tug of love still lingering within me, despite the betrayal. Back at home, the silence enveloped us like a thick fog. The space that had once felt warm and inviting now felt cold and distant. I could sense the tension. In the air, the unspoken questions lingering between us. "Do you want to talk about it?" Kelly asked as we sat on the couch, her fingers fidgeting nervously in her lap. "Yeah, I think we should," I said, taking a deep breath. "But it can't be just about the cheating. We need to address why it happened and what we can do to prevent it from happening again." She nodded, her expression earnest. "I know that I let my loneliness cloud my judgment. I felt like we were drifting apart, and instead of reaching out to you, I turned to someone else. I don't want to make excuses, but I want you to understand that I was in a bad place." "I get that," I replied, trying to keep my emotions in check. "But you need to understand what this did to me. I felt betrayed, humiliated, like I was not enough for you." "I truly regret everything," she said, tears spilling from her eyes. "I want to fix this to be better for you and for us. I'll go to counseling if that's what it takes. I just want a chance to make it right." As her words washed over me, I felt the walls I had built around my heart start to crack. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that we could work through this and emerge stronger. But I also knew that action spoke louder than words, and it would take time to rebuild what had been lost. "Let's take it one step at a time," I suggested, my voice firm but gentle. "We need to communicate better and be honest about our feelings. I need to know that I can trust you again." "I promise I'll be open with you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm committed to making this work." Over the next few weeks, we embarked on a journey of rebuilding. We went to couples therapy, where we learned to communicate more openly about our needs, our fears, and our disappointments. It was challenging, and there were moments of tension, but we pushed through the discomfort because we both wanted to salvage our marriage. I watched as Kelly worked hard to regain my trust. She was diligent about keeping her phone unlocked, inviting me into her life rather than pushing me away. It was a long process, but there were glimmers of hope as we began to reconnect, slowly finding our way back to one another. One night, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, I turned to her, taking her hand in mine. "I'm glad we're working through this together," I said softly. "I want to believe in us again." "I do too," she replied, her eyes shining with sincerity. "Thank you for giving me a chance." In that moment, I realized that while the scars of betrayal would always be there, they didn't have to define us. We had the opportunity to learn and grow from this experience, and while the road ahead was uncertain, I was willing to walk it with her. As we faced the future together, I knew that the journey to healing would be ongoing. But for the first time since the affair, I felt a flicker of hope. I had taken control of my life, and maybe, just maybe, love could conquer even the deepest wounds. I had learned a hard lesson about trust and betrayal, but I also learned about resilience and the power of forgiveness. It wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to embrace the next chapter, whatever it might bring. We would face it together, and that was enough for now.